pension delay, earnings test, and double taxes on today's Fednobabble.
This is Fednobabble, where Kevin and Cassie make federal retirement benefits understandable for humans like you. These two don't hold back as they answer questions from the Fed Pilot workshops and webinars or from questions submitted by you at fednobabble.com.
Okay. Hey, Cassie, we've got more questions from the workshops, and these are good ones. Are you ready? Here's the first one. How long after I retire will it be before I receive a pension check? How long is it now, Cassie? Especially with coronavirus, right? Because there have been some delays. So how long is it taking people to get their pension check?
Well, it depends. Because, okay, one of the biggest factors is your retirement package. Did you turn in a healthy retirement package?
Wait.
When you retired?
Are you saying you can turn in a sick one?
Well, yes.
Yes.
And then the OPM doctors, they check it up and they say, nope, this isn't right. It's got a cold. It's got to go back. It needs
quarantine it.
That's right. It's got coronavirus.
That's right.
But there are so many things like on the retirement package. For instance, for divorced employees, folks that owe their former spouse a part of their pension or a part of their spousal benefits, if they've never sent in a divorce decree and then they finally send it in with their retirement package, that can delay the process because that goes in a separate pile than the regular, straightforward ones. Are you retiring under an MRA plus 10 scenario where you have a reduced pension amount? Do you have any redeposits or deposits that are owed? Or, are you coming from OWCP and are now collecting or trying to collect your pension? I think there are so many different factors that I simply don't know with this person that I can't say that it's going to be, 6 months or 9 months. What I can tell you is that it can take anywhere from 3 to 12 months to receive a full pension check. Typically, you receive your annual leave payout when you separate from service within 2 weeks to 30 days. If you've got a really great HR department, then you can receive it with your final paycheck. But as far as your pension is concerned, you can receive what they call intermittent or interim paycheck. Yeah. Which is just a portion of what your full pension check should be. And that could be anywhere from 30% to 60% of your full pension amount. And you can receive that for a few months before you start actually receiving the full pension check. So are we talking about the interim check here, or are we talking about the full pension?
Right.
I'm not really sure.
Because there are those two checks. So if you're, and I think that's a lot what people don't understand is that how long will I get my check? Well, do you mean your partial check, which is your interim check, or the full check? Wait, there's a difference? Yeah, there is. And what I tell people in the workshops is that it could take up to a full year. So just expect a full year. And if it's before that, be pleasantly surprised. But some people think, well, if there are issues, then if I turn it in earlier, then all those issues will be caught and I'll get my full check earlier, right? Well, what people don't understand, people don't understand that HR doesn't even send in your paperwork to OPM until you've already retired. You have to walk out the door and then they send it to OPM. So you could turn it in a year early. Some agencies won't let you, but let's pretend you turn it in a year early. It's not going to OPM any faster than the person who turned it in the day that they retire. So
right.
It's a good question. One that you need to, I don't know that you can ever really know until it actually happens. But you're right. The cleaner the retirement paperwork that goes in, the faster you're going to get your full pension check. Now, Cassie, you've seen a lot of retirement packets. You've seen a lot of retirement applications filled out. How many are clean?
0.
Let that sink in,
I'm being
everyone.
completely honest. I have not run across any retirement application that has been completely clean as far as the information that's on it or what have you, because there's so many different pieces that people don't realize that there's additional forms that you have to include as well with your retirement application. You know, if you're married, you've got to have your marriage certificate. If you've had any military service, you need your DD-214. An SF-50 is always good to include with your retirement package, but it's not necessary. If you've done pre-work for your divorce decree, then you simply don't need it. When are turning in your application. There's also, I'm trying to think what other, the SF, the one for the Fegley insurance. I can't think about it right now. I think it's the 2823, where, the Fegley insurance questionnaire, you've got to figure out, what elections you're going to be making and determining that, including that with your retirement application package. And I think there's a lot of pre-work that can be done with employees, years before retirement. If you have had any military service, make a deposit if you can. If you're retired, find out, or retired military, find out if it's worth it or advantageous for your financial situation to make a military deposit. If you have any other redeposits that are owed on your service, find out and make those, make those deposits or redeposits. So that way you're not trying to figure it out at retirement.
Right.
If you do, there is a place where you can send in your divorce decree. If you owe your former spouse any part of your pension or a portion of your survivor spouse benefit, you can fill it in and turn it in years before retirement. So that way OPM already has done that, their pre-work, where they can say, okay, this is what it is for this employee at retirement. And then they'll just simply wait for your retirement package to come in.
Yeah.
So there's a number of different things that I think employees just simply are unaware of that they can do prior to retirement. So that way at retirement, they don't have to worry about these things.
I think the number 0, though, is quite telling. that no one really turns in application paperwork that's clean, that's 100% clean. Mm-hmm. And it would make sense, because if it does go in clean, then you're going to get that interim check faster. So it's kind of important.
And full pension check faster as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Full pension check. You're right. Full pension check faster. And so that's really another piece of this whole thing. So if you go to Fednobabble.com and sign up, we will put you in touch with a financial professional in our trusted network, and they and Cassie can go over that retirement paperwork and check it out.
That's right.
And make sure that it's clean.
Yeah, I believe just about everybody in our network does send those in for me to be able to scrub and take a look at prior to retirement. And I give them a full checklist of, what is needed that needs to be correct, what additional paperwork needs to be included in there, what is it that the employee is trying to do based on their answers. And that way they can take it back to the employee and really help them with that situation and say, hey, here's what we need to do to make sure this is good to go. So
yep. And really, it's all of this that we offer is no cost, no obligation, no sales pitch, all that. We just want to kickstart you and get you in the right spot, because that's really, really important for the rest of your life. You got to make sure you do that right. So just thought I'd add that in there. Okay, next question. I have an LLC, no W-2 or 1099. Does that count against the SRS earnings test? Cassie?
Yes. Any self-employed income still counts against the earnings test. How that counts against your earnings test, I'm not exactly sure. You'll have to look at the questionnaire. But I do know that any earned income, whether it's self-employed or employed, you're working for somebody else, does count against that.
Now, okay, I'm going to get into an area that I am not 100% sure about. So just as a disclaimer so that everyone knows, not 100% sure. However, I have my own LLC for Fed Pilot. And Cassie, you have yours for Fed Options. So there are two ways to pay yourself basically through an LLC. And really what we're trying to do in this context is trying to be able to retire and work and still not have the penalty against the special retirement supplement or Social Security. So how can we work and get those at the same time? Well, if you have an LLC, I think, and this is where I'm not 100% sure, but I think you have to pay yourself if you're going to pay yourself something, if you're going to take money somehow, it has to be through either a W-2 because you become an employee of that company, or through what it has a few different names, but also owner draw, which is the interest. Really, you could call it the interest of the company, or owner dividends, you might say. So, but so that piece does not go against the earnings test. So that isn't touched. But if you paid yourself a salary, W-2, that would. So I don't know that you can have an LLC and only do the dividends and owner draws. I think you have to do W-2 in there. Again, I'd check on that, but I'm almost positive it's that way.
Either way, if you have an LLC, you typically have a what is it? A P&L? I forget what it stands for.
Profit and loss?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes. And so you're still using that for other tax purposes and things like that. And, all of that, really talk to a tax professional. They're going to be able to best answer how you should do your LLC, because I know it's different also for different places and different kinds of LLCs, right? A contractor type of LLC is going to be different than somebody who's got a farm service LLC or business. And so it depends on what type of business it is and how that is going to work, because there's different deductions for each type of business. So what I would just suggest is talk to a tax professional. But the bottom line is that some sort of earnings will have to get reported for your self-employment. What those earnings are is very different for different types of businesses, and how it all goes in play depending on how you pay yourself, whether you're taking those deductions or paying yourself a paycheck via W-2. But that's why I really strongly encourage you to talk to a tax professional, because there are also deductions that you can take out prior to paying yourself. And that might be able to help you get around the earnings test for the SRS. So that way you're properly setting yourself up to be under that amount and still be able to receive that full benefit. So talk
really,
to a tax advisor and get them to help you out.
You can, like you said, you could bring in money that isn't counted against the SRS or Social Security, or really the earnings test. And what was the other point? I don't remember what the other one was. But anyways, you could all do it legally. I think that's the main point. The deductions. You can take deductions that benefit you, but at the same time benefit the business. But again, it's all legal. If you consult a tax professional, you can do it legally and be able to do the not worry about the earnings test or have it not hurt you as much. So again, there are good ways to do that. You just got to be really careful.
Yes.
Okay, next one. We only have 5 minutes on this one. I think we can do this. How do I avoid paying double taxes on my current TSP loan?
Oh, you can't.
Well, okay, so this is what I heard, Cassie. I've heard two things, to tell you the truth. I've heard you can't.
Right.
By the way, and I'll just say this, for all intents and purposes, when you take out a loan from the TSP, you are taxed twice. All right. We're not going to get into, we don't have the time on this one. Maybe on another one soon, we'll go into how that happens and why that happens. But anytime someone takes out a loan from the TSP, they're taxed twice. So if you're in a 25% tax bracket, 50% of the money that you took out as a loan is now gone or will eventually be gone in taxes. So can you avoid it? I think if you take really, really, really good, if you keep all the paperwork, and I was going to say take good notes, but that's not quite right. But you know what I mean on that, right? And go to a tax professional, they may be able to do your taxes in such a way that it isn't taken out twice. But almost no one does that. I mean, really, I haven't met one person who has ever done that. And they just take the double hit. So if you have ever taken out a loan from the TSP, I would highly, highly, highly suggest you talk to a tax professional to say, okay, I didn't realize this. How do I avoid it? And then start working on it today, ASAP.
Yes.
Don't delay that. That's going to be a critical one. Right. So
I don't think I have any more to add to that, Kevin. You kind of. That was good. That was good, though.
That but it's a big thing that a lot of people, that almost no one knows about. Almost no federal employee understands they're going to be taxed twice from their TSP loan. And these are the kind of things. And I'll actually, we've got a couple minutes. I'm going to tell a quick story. There was one of the advisors in our trusted network. He and I were going back and forth, and he said, "Oh, Kevin, guess what happened?" He said, "You were doing a workshop. You talked about this," because we talk about this real briefly in the workshop just to warn people. He said, "Then I met with one of the people who were at the workshop, and he was a little bit upset because right like the week before the workshop, he had looked at this and said, well, I can either pay 3.9% for a new truck through financing through the dealership, or I can do 1 point whatever it is, or point whatever. I don't know what it is with the TSP. Well, that makes more sense." And he went and did that. And he said, "I completely screwed up here." And it was like, yeah, you did. This is why it's so important to talk with financial professionals before you retire, well before, so you can avoid mistakes like this, because that kind of thing, and there are other things like this, can happen throughout your whole employment. If you can avoid those things early, you're not going to be hit with them later on. So if you're working with a financial professional early, you can set yourself up. If you do it within the last 5 years, can you help with that's still good. But the earlier you can do this, the better off you're going to be. Any thoughts about that, Cassie?
Yeah, and if you're curious, you don't have a financial professional in your area that knows about the federal benefits or anything else, and you want to make sure that you get a good one that's going to help you really distill down all of these different factors that go into play for your retirement, please go to Fednobabble.com. Let us get you in touch with somebody from our trusted network, a financial professional. I shouldn't say just anybody. But they really help you put together these different pieces and make sure that you're looking at the bigger picture, and helping you to take action when action is needed, and not do something when you shouldn't be doing something.
Right. Yes,
instance,
we see that all the time.
And they're going to help you with that retirement package. So They will also prepare a benefits report for you to make sure that you know exactly what you're going to be starting with, so that way you can make those different plans for what your goals are, in life, in employment, in retirement, whatever that looks like for you financially. They're going to be with you every step of the way. And I'm just so great for the team that we have in place now. Just so you know, we're only giving your information to that one person too. We don't give it
Right.
to everybody.
Nope.
We're not giving it to the whole team that we have in the network. We're simply giving it to one financial advisor who is closest to you to get you hooked up, and get you coordinated with that person, because they're going to be able to help you in that situation. So
Yep.
go to fednobabble.com and take action.
And if you would, please like, subscribe, follow wherever you're watching this, listening to it. Do that and share it with your coworkers because they need to learn this as well. It's important that they do. Okay. Thanks, Cassie. See you next time, everyone, with some more questions we'll come up with. See you then.
To get Cassie's comprehensive report on your federal retirement benefits at no cost, no obligation, and no sales pitch, go to Fednobabble.com. While you're there, submit a question for them to answer on the show.